This is a Huddle Sports Network broadcast. You can find us on Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, Facebook, and of course YouTube. Get all your NFL news here first.
He has time. He's got the left side. Dobbs is there. Leaping grab. Touchdown. Touchdown.
And good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Friday morning edition of Ken and Ken in the Morning. With me, as always, is that bearded Packer fan. Because if you ever saw him without a beard, we have to call him the baby face Packer fan. Ken.
Hey, that's cultural appropriation.
And if I got some of that in there somewhere, I got that variety thing going on. We'd have to call him baby face. So. Now he's just bearded. So, hey, it's happening. People are signing now, right? Quick shots from yesterday. The Lions are re-signing linebacker Derek Barnes. The Lions fans rejoice. The Bills agree to extension with linebacker Terrell Bernard. Linebackers were the thing of the day. The Bears re-signed. Oh, the 49ers are, by the way, the 49ers are interested in Joey Bosa. Okay, whatever. Actually, the Jaguars and the Texans agreed to a Christian Kirk trade. Remember when he signed that big contract and just screwed up the entire wide receiver market and then did nothing? Yeah, we all do. Commanders are re-signing Bobby Wagner, which was good news for them. Where's the Bears re-signed? Oh God, his name is so hard to say. We re-signed Josh Blackwell. That made Woody, myself, and Broski very happy. And Amen, this is a good name I can't pronounce. Agban Begninga. I just know that we re-signed a linebacker, okay?
There you go. That's just what you should have left it as, Ken. When I see one of those names, it's just, yeah, it was this guy at this position, but I'm not even going to try and pronounce the name.
Yeah. Also, Browns owner Jimmy Haslam declined a meeting with Myles Garrett. What? So,
what I hope, and I mean, I hope, beg and pray that it was going to be Myles who's going to say, you know what? Maybe I'm taking a bit of a hard line stance here, and I'll let them, give me a big deal, and I'll finish it out with, oh, you're not taking the meeting with me? Okay, fuck you. Now I'm definitely not playing for you. That's what I hope and pray that it was. But
yeah,
they also tendered some of our guys, Emmanuel Wilson, Daniel Whelan, and Zane Anderson, along with Kadeem Telford, were all tendered this week, so they will be back.
I actually think it was the other way around. I actually think Myles wanted the meeting with Jimmy Haslam so he could say, look, dude, like, what's it going to take to get me out of here, man? Like, I already told you I'm not going to accept a long-term deal. Like, is there anything I can do to kind of grease the wheels here?
Garrett recently requested to meet in person with Haslam, and Haslam declined. So Garrett did request it, and Garrett, look, to me, if you're Myles Garrett, you say, I want, and the owner's like, dude, I ain't talking to you. It's like, all right, cool. Trade me. And speaking of guys who are now available for trade, yep, Bears fans, here we go. Trey Hendrickson has permission to seek trade from the Cincinnati Bengals, the best edge rusher in the league. He's given permission to go out and seek a trade. Also, at Metcalf, if you want to trade for him, he's looking for $30 million a year, and the asking price is a first rounder.
It's a first and a third.
Yeah. First and the third.
That's what Seattle wants for him.
Yeah,
They're getting that shit.
I think the third is negotiable, but they must have the first round pick, and then Metcalf wants $30 million. So if you're that desperate, I mean, it's there. It's going to cost you a lot. I'm not surprised the 49ers have interest in Joey Bosa. Darnold, yeah, we're getting to that thing again. So yeah, I mean, there was a lot of movement yesterday, right? Texans are re-signing Kirsch Hinch, at defensive on the defense there. Broncos fired a coach and hired another one. So I mean, the movements are starting to happen. The RFAs yesterday, the Patriots tendered linebacker Christian Ellis, non-tendered offensive lineman Lester Cotton. So he might be a Bear by tomorrow. And for the Giants tendered Tommy DeVito.
They want to keep him around as the third quarterback. I 100% believe they're grooming him to be the long-term backup there for New York. The fans love him. His teammates love him. And he's getting slightly better as time goes on. I think that's going to be their plan in the future for backup.
We see the Falcons re-signed long snapper Liam McCullough. You know, people laugh at, they read long snapper. Very important position that really, I mean, these guys don't make much. Like the good ones make about $1 million, maybe $1.5 million. You know, so actually, this guy is going to make 3.2. Long snappers are actually a lot more important than people realize. So that was it's a good move by them. The Rams are.
We know how that goes because we had Brett Goody for years as the long snapper. Then we decide, you know what? We're going to move on for him from some younger kid. And have had long snapping issues fucking since, and this was years ago.
The Rams are nearing a decision on Cooper Kupp. The Bengals are receiving calls from T. Higgins, even though they said, we're not going to trade T. Higgins. We franchise tagged him. We're going to sign him. And that's that. Also, the Seahawks going back on decaf. He is decaf these days. He's the decaf DK up in Seattle with went up there. They want that trade done by the draft. So we're going to see. So that's going to be in the news quite a bit. So yeah, quite a bit of stuff. There, I mean, Jaguars released tight end Evan Engram, wide receiver Devin DuVernay. So they're cleaning house down there. Colts released Raekwon Davis, defensive tackle.
And Nick, that really makes me want to do George Carlin's jokes on there, but that might be a little too far over the line. And if you've seen any of his stand-up, you probably know which one I'm talking about.
Well, we might get to all 7 words today because the Bills released their punter, Sam Martin. They're shit out of luck when it comes to taking their shit and moving it down the field because, you know, when you go on vacation to get away from your shit, you just get a bag and pack more of your shit in it. Then you go there. No, Carlin, the 7 words you can't say was great, but that was probably his best one was your shit. And I got to see that live in Vegas, and oh my God, I was dead. I mean, but it's so true. It's like you want to get away from your shit, you go on vacation to get away from your shit. So what do? You take your shit, you pack your shit in a bag, and take your shit with you when you go on vacation to buy more shit that you're going to take home to add to the shit you've already got. I was, if we were on normal air, the FCC would have fined me a shitload right now.
Well, since we got no FCC and it's a paying homage to Carlin, rat shit, bat shit, dirty old twat, 69 assholes tied in a knot. Hooray, lizard shit, fuck.
And on that note, the Seahawks re-signed cornerback Josh Jobe.
It's official. Ken, the Packer fan, is feeling much better now.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I am back to Ken.
Am I the only one who thinks that Tommy D had like Guidos waiting outside the building to get that deal?
Hey! You leave right now what they did alone.
He definitely made him an offer they can't refuse, dude.
Speaking of kickers, the Commanders re-signed kicker Zane Gonzalez. See, yesterday it was funny because like yesterday was a barren wasteland. The Vikings extend safety Theo Jackson. The Rams and wide receiver Tutu Atwell agreed to a deal. Senator Mitch Morse from the Buffalo Bills retired yesterday. Of course, the Browns restructured Deshaun Watson's deal to include a franchise of massage parlors. Oh no, wait, they didn't include that. Never mind, but they freed up cap money, and that's the roundup of all the transactions that I see. I might have missed a few. Yeah, a lot of stuff. I was happy for the Bears to see Blackwell get re-signed. That was one. So Broski, they re-signed 2 yesterday. So what was that idea?
Yeah, Brisky approves. I mean, that Blackwell was one of the guys I wanted them to re-sign. One of the 2, and they did. That's good.
And meanwhile, the Raiders have not made a move on any of their defensive free agents.
None.
Which is surprising. They gave Max a new deal though. Like,
so yesterday was look at the Bears kicked this off with the flurry of trades and signings, right? And then now the rest of the league, like, okay, time for us to get to work, and they're getting to work. The Bears re-signed 2 yesterday. You know, our linebacker with the name I'll never ever again try to pronounce. I'll just call him Smith.
No, see, I say we make the whole rest of the show is Ken just reading his name over and over again.
Oh God, why would you do that to me? I mean, how would you? Okay, Obgongbemiga, Ogbongminga, maybe that's
Ogbon. Just call him Ogbon.
That's
Ogbon.
a good nickname.
Yeah.
So you know, there's another line. There's a linebacker re-signed, and of course Blackwell. And I think we'll see another today. I think they'll re-sign DeAndre Carter today, if for nothing else, special teams. Yes, they did, John. And he beat your boy in Lambeau last year, week 18. Yeah,
You guys are going to hold on to that one for a while, huh?
Yes, we are. We definitely deserve to. So happy Friday to all. The Bears beat the Packers in Lambeau and are the only undefeated NFC North team in 2025.
Hey, how'd the previous 5.5 years go?
Hey, it doesn't matter. So what have you done for me lately? Not what you did for me 5.5 years ago.
Oh, okay. So how'd that block kick go? Did that rip the hope right out of you guys? Of, oh, holy shit, we're finally beating the Packers. And damn, we Chicago we lose.
I'm going to the most recent past, man. That's all I can really do.
Okay, now you're definitely a Detroit fan.
Oh, God. Oh, sorry, Nicholas. So, look at, I mean, we're starting to get some movement. We're starting to get, I mean, I don't know how the Kirk trade, I don't think is a big deal. I mean, the guy he gets the big contract and went to Jacksonville and did nothing, right? So that to me is like, okay, it's another trade. I mean, they're cleaning some house down there in Jacksonville. I don't know, John. I'll let you know when we do it. But we're starting to clean some house. We're starting to see some house cleaning in Jacksonville. So now maybe some intentions, for the draft, which we talked a little bit about the combine yesterday, are going to start to come to fruition. But, another big edge rusher says, hey, I'm going to join Miles, get me out of Ohio. What is it with the state of Ohio and edge rushers wanting to leave?
You already said it, Ohio. That
Yeah,
right there's that right there's the whole reason to want to leave. I have a bunch of friends that lived in Ohio that moved their happy ass out of there as quick as they could.
I mean, the problem with Trey, and look at Trey Hendrickson, another one of these deals where if you trade for him, he wants a big extension when he lands. So, he's 30 years old, $16 million scheduled this year, and he wants an extension. And yeah, he was phenomenal last year.
All right, glad you could join us while you could, Moonscar.
Ohio.
Go line.
Ohio.
I mean,
It's like when you move into a neighborhood and like your neighbors bring you a lasagna, you know. In Ohio, they bring you a bag of heroin.
See, I thought you were going to say it was going to be lasagna that somebody made with salsa.
No.
Well, I mean, you know, it's a trend though with all these edge guys. You know, they're all in their 30s. The big names, they're all in their 30s, and it's getting that. I mean, it's just proving that point though. We've been saying that guys' careers are going much further than they used to, or at least a couple years further. I won't say maybe much because I don't know if 2 or 3 years is much, but in some cases 5 or 6. So I mean, you know, 30 years old, he'll be 31 by the time his extension kicks in. How long of an extension is the team going to give him? How long is he looking for? You know, I mean, if he's looking to go to 35, which Lil Mack is doing, you know, I mean, these guys are doing.
Curious to see how it plays out this offseason because this is such a strong defensive end draft class. You know, why trade away so much draft capital for a over 30-year-old defensive end when you can draft a guy and
Because that defensive end had 17 and a half sacks last season.
I mean, if you're looking for a guy to put you over the top to win a Super Bowl, absolutely. If you're a team like the Bears or the Raiders, absolutely not. You have to start building your team the right way.
Yeah, I don't want him on the Raiders. I don't want to pay the price.
If you're Philly, you do it, right? You can do it. If you're Baltimore, if you're Kansas City, if you're.
What about, I mean, even like the Redskins? I mean, they might be looking to doing something like that.
I think they you know.
The Lions don't have the heart to do anything like that. Brad Holmes is dollar store Brad. He's never going to do anything like that.
No, and you know, Hawk is coming back, but they do need someone to pair up with Hawk too. I mean, but like you said, the draft, and he'll do it through the draft. Holmes will do it through the draft. The Bears still have to spend some big money. I don't know where that big money is going to get spent yet. Good morning, Yoli. But like, you know, I'm wondering, going back to the Redskins, I wonder if part of the, you know, if like they kind of remind me of the 20. Oh, we lost 10 for a moment there. They kind of remind me of, or did I move into the back? I'll let them I wonder if they learned like from the 2018 Bears, right? Because they were a year ahead of schedule of 2018 Bears. Like the 2018 Bears should not have been the division-winning 13-win team or whatever many wins we had that season team. They were a year ahead of schedule, and I said that whole year they were ahead of schedule. And the next year, they still made the playoffs, but they weren't nearly as good. I'm wondering if Washington, it maybe got themselves a little ahead of schedule last year. Remember, everything they did was like this patchwork framework of you know, that were discarded that no one wanted. And then they go all the way to the NFC Championship game. So, you know, to quote John Dorn, but for a different team, was fool's gold for Washington last season. And now are they trying to maintain, say, well, geez, we're that close, so we're going to push ourselves over the top. In reality, they probably weren't. They probably just way overperformed last year as a team, you know, and caught everyone off guard. Were they that team last year that was ahead of schedule? I mean, if they make the move, it's smart on them, because if you look at the 19 Bears, they didn't really make that many moves, right? They kind of stood pat with a lot of stuff. You know, that's what I'm worrying about Washington. Let me bring 10 back up. I don't know if I put them back there on accident.
You know, Washington needs to upgrade their defense big time. They also need to find a running back.
Yeah.
Honestly, dude, I think if Washington is smart, they'll realize that they kind of overachieved last year and that they need to add some pieces. And I think that I would be looking to, like, if I was them, I would try to call Green Bay and see if I could get Jair over there with Lattimore. And then I would call Cleveland, and I have no problem giving up my first round pick to go get Myles Garrett. Like, you know, I'm going all in. Like, yeah, I don't think it's completely fool's gold with them, because I think Jaden Daniels really is that good. But I think that you just, you know, you're a few pieces away, and you could add a few of those pieces. Like, I would say fuck them picks, honestly. Like,
yeah, I
mean, I'm going all in right now.
They have the coaching staff. They have a quarterback. I mean, you know, the rest is the easy part.
Yeah, their coaching staff made a huge impact last year. That old line they have isn't really, you know, an all.
And I think they have cap space too, don't they? Aren't they like way up there in cap space?
Well, yeah, but they're already spending some of it. What I was saying was, like, their old line, it wasn't exactly spectacular, but they played well due to coaching and scheme. And this is going to be that reaction year now where teams, especially within a division, are going to be able to react to that scheme. They have the whole offseason now to design plays for Washington. So it's always fun watching that second season of an offense, second season of a defense, see what the counters are. They overachieved. They did it with patchwork players. But can those patchwork players that are coming back and now are fan favorites in some cases, can they replicate what they did last year? And I think they're smart to go out there and bring in some free agents, but is it going to be enough, especially in that?
I also think that there's a flip side to that coin, like where defenses are going to be able to scheme now, but also that line is going to have another year together, so that adds the continuity. Like I think they'll play better than they did last year together. And also, like I know that they opened up the playbook, as far as Jaden Daniels, he wasn't really limited, but I wonder if there was anything they held back, like if they're like, hey, we don't want to put too much on the rookie. So is there something that's still in their back pocket, like another element to the offense that they haven't used yet?
That, and now not only are you going to have defenses reviewing the game tape, but Cliff Kingsbury is going to be reviewing that game tape and be thinking, oh, well, since these guys do this well, I can try implementing this type of thing into it for them.
Mm-hmm.
The Commanders actually have $64 million in cap.
Yep.
They got a lot of, and they got some guys they can make some moves. I mean, they have Lattimore, Debo, Gary Terry. Man, look, that team is no slouch. I mean, they're looking pretty good. They've got 64 mils, so they can afford to make another big move. I mean, but John actually said it right though. Like, teams are going to overpay to get a guy in free agency this year because they all have money and they all have a responsibility via the rule because of the NFLPA to spend that money. Like, they can maybe get away with not spending it this year, but I think the rule is you have to spend, 90% of the cap, and if you don't do it, I think you can get away with it for a year, but you can't get away with it for more than 2 years in a row, or you get your sanctions, penalties, fines, whatnot.
That rule probably came about because of Ted Thompson rolling the cap over for about 5 fucking years in a row. Not like I'm bitter about that at all.
No, I mean, the rule has bad unintended consequences. Some of these some of these contracts that people get are a direct reflection that, well, we have to spend it. Well, shit, gotta give him 30, give him 20, we gotta go sign another guy we don't process it. So people got some bigger contracts due to that than they probably deserve. But I mean, the Redskins are definitely in a position to go out and get Trey or Miles, or make another big splashy move.
A couple of splashy moves, because Jair's not going to cost them a whole lot. Like, if I got to give up a first, a second, and a third for Jair and for Myles Garrett, just take them. I'll give up the first and second for Garrett, and I'll give up the third for Jair, and now I just added 2 key pieces to my defense.
Shit, I'd go for that.
If Jair could even get the third, I think he'd get more of a fourth or a fifth because of the contract. Because the problem with Jair, I know some Packer fans love Jair, and if you talk bad about a Packer, oh my God. But let's face facts here, the dude did not do much for the last 2 years. He had a really great, rookie contract, signed a big contract, and look, he did what happens to about a third of the players in the league after they signed a big contract. He got hurt. He fell off. Whatever happened. The point is he is not the guy the Packers gave that big paycheck to anymore. He hasn't been for the last 2 seasons now. He's young enough. Could he regain that form? Most definitely. Most times what you happen to see with that, and it's not a knock on the Packers because it happens to every team, is you get a guy like that and you trade him, and now the place he goes, he's back to the guy that you gave the big money to that didn't show up for the 2 years after you gave him the big money. It's like, really? I mean, and that's why there's some trepidation by the Packers to trade him, because if you look historically, like Goody knows that's what's going to happen. He's going to trade him somewhere, and then all of a sudden Jair will be fine.
See, that's how a lot of it works with the rest of the NFL. But Green Bay does have a track record of once they get rid of a guy, most of the guys, I will not say all because we see the outliers, end up performing worse than they did with the Packers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can point to every team that has guys that do that, too.
Well, no, I'm saying that's the majority of it.
I mean, the team that's actually the best about that used to be the New England Patriots. Because if Belichick was done with you, you were pretty much done in the league. But yeah, I mean, it's still I understand though. Goody's perplexed. 2 off-seasons in a row, he's had this huge perplexing problem. What to do with a big player on the roster, and I get where Goody's at because if he trades him to Washington, all of a sudden Jair's like, "I'm good, let's go," and he's back to form. And you're like, you're just like. And I get it, but I don't think he's going to get more than a 4th rounder because of the last 2 years, and he hasn't played as much.
We're going to trade Jair for the mystery box because inside of that mystery box, you might even have an Alexander.
Raiders contacted the Seahawks about DK Metcalf.
Mm-hmm.
And then
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, and then I've been hearing there's a lot of at least rumors going that the Raiders are going to pursue Rodgers. I don't know.
It makes sense at this point.
Yeah, I don't know how true it is because from the interactions I've seen between Brady and Rodgers, it don't seem like Rodgers likes him too much.
Yeah,
Well,
they're small.
Keep the GOAT. Rodgers is a guy who has an ego. Brady is a guy who has an ego, and when you're Aaron Rodgers and you've been probably the most physically talented quarterback to ever play the position, and yet you got a guy who won 7 Super Bowls. What are you going to say to the guy?
It looks like a slice of soggy bread. That probably hurts Rodgers' ego a bit.
The only guy I don't see the ego from Brady all the time. But the only guy he doesn't have that ego with as much is Peyton. Like there's a friendly little thing that goes on there, but the ego if you look at the way he is with Manning is completely different than the way he's with every other quarterback. It's kind of funny, but I could see why Rodgers, because once Rodgers went to Vegas to win a Super Bowl, it's because Brady was there.
That's why I'm thinking Rodgers isn't going to want to go there.
I actually like the banter between Tom Brady and Eli Manning. Like they had Eli Manning, he was doing a signing, and they brought him a Brady jersey, and he wrote "Good Game" on it. And then they took it back to Brady, and Brady signed it "Fuck you."
That's okay. So let me amend that then, Joe. The way he is with the Manning brothers, that's right. Because Eli and him poke fun. Eli's like, "Well, I beat you twice. Well, you suck, but I still beat you twice." All that little stuff. I mean, it's only quarterback family, I guess you can say. You see Brady kind of like the ego's there, but more chill and more jovial.
When he played Patrick Mahomes, you could kind of see a little bit of it.
I think he was kind of passing the torch at that point.
I don't think he was passing the torch at all. I think it was more, and that's who the NFL is going to try to replace me with is this guy. That's what I more took it as.
Well,
come on, he owns a soccer team. I mean,
Yeah, but Brady, I agree with Ken on this one.
I think that matters to Brady.
I think Brady beating him was like, yeah, I'm still that guy, like I don't know if he was passing the torch. I think it was more like him showing him like you thought this dude was gonna beat me,
Hey, speaking of players with egos, and this is the guy who probably doesn't really have one, and that's JJ Watt. You guys notice he's going back to the gym because he has a bet with his soccer team that he owns. And his goalkeeper is holding him to it and trying to say, well, hey, he was a Cincinnati Bengals fan, the starting goalkeeper for the team that JJ owns. And he goes, well, look, you need to come play for the Bengals. And JJ goes, well, if you keep a clean sheet the rest of the season, meaning you allow no goals the rest of the season, I'll come out of retirement and play for the Bengals. The guy's gone like 16 or 17 games with a clean sheet. JJ's back in the gym right now. Now, literally, he is. Wouldn't that be funny to see JJ Watt come back to the league? And I wasn't Cleveland, Cincinnati, and ends up signing with Cincinnati for a song because he makes a bet with one of his soccer players on the team here.
So what? We can see JJ get injured for the 8th time in his career?
Well, I mean, he's been out, 2 years now? You'd assume he'd be healthy by now. I mean, I of all the other crap that goes on in the NFL, that's just a great little story that's kind of developing. I'm kind of keeping tabs on it just because it's funny to see. Because JJ's kind of guy, he'll keep his word, man. I want to see if this kid can do it. First off, if this kid can do it, he's not going to be playing for JJ's soccer team much longer. He's going to get bought out by a much bigger team and moved up in the system there in England. But it may even get a look by the U.S. national team. But it is kind of funny that the soccer game is impacting the NFL yet again in another weird way. All right, Steve, you say Trey Hendrickson. What about him? We already mentioned that he's requested a trade, and he's going to be expensive to trade for, and he's going to want a big extension, and he's going to be 31 years old with his current contract ends.
Well, we've also seen a lot of not a lot, but a decent amount of defensive linemen play till mid-30s to the late 30s and still be pretty damn productive.
He's got at least one more contract in him, no doubt. But like Broski said, there's so many. This draft is chock full of edge.
But if you're the Bengals, you're in a really good spot right now because, like, you could trade Trey Hendrickson and you could get, I think you could get something for him, and you could trade T. Higgins and you could really get something for him. So you could go into this draft, if you were willing to take picks this year, you could go into this draft and have a lot of capital to get the pieces that you need to put you right back in contention.
You have 3 first-round picks.
Potentially.
And here's the other thing, like with this draft being, good morning, Brent. Busy, anybody's listening. With this draft too, I mean, that's why I wonder why is Cleveland so hesitant to trade Myles Garrett. Okay, fine. I've got a guy who cost me a bunch of money on my cap. He obviously wants to be gone. Let me go get a first-round pick for him and some other picks. It's not going to be just a first-round pick. I'm going to get a first-round pick this year, and then I'm going to take someone's second or third round next year. I'm going to get 2 or 3 picks out of this, maybe some cash, maybe another young player that we can develop, right? I mean, you're not winning anything now, especially with you just restructured Watson's deal. You're not winning anytime soon.
Yeah, I agree. It's a great offseason for them to actually trade Garrett because you can get this draft capital. You can draft another stud defensive end and have more picks on top of that.
Well, and you're picking second overall. Yeah. So that's your pick. So then the Garrett trade, you're going to get another first rounder. So you're not only going to be able to add either potentially a quarterback or the best defensive end in the class, but then you're going to have another pick to address another need.
Yeah.
And in the first round, they don't trade down from their second pick overall because if I were Cleveland, I would highly consider that. They need a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, a quarterback's not going to get it done. You could rebuild you could build up your entire defense, or you could mix it up, go offense and defense, add some pieces with the haul that you would get from trading down.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Chiefs, Eagles, even the Rams had that approach where you pretty much build your entire team and then you drop in you find the quarterback and drop him in, and everyone's hitting on all cylinders at the same time then, and you're good to go.
So Watson's restructuring yesterday, they sit Cleveland. I'm jumping over to Cleveland real quick. They sit at $12.5 million. 62 signed to the active roster. So on that point, they're good. So they got 10 people that are going to cut off this roster, and that's going to save them roughly $9 million. But
if they trade Garrett, doesn't it give them a shitload of dead cap? That could take away all their cap space.
If they trade him, let me go to the trade number. If they trade him before the draft, $36 million dead cap, $16 million, they go negative $16 million in cap space. If it's post June 1st. That changes dramatically. Then they only have 14 million dead cap, and they save 5 million on cap. So with Garrett, I don't think you're trading. They're not. It doesn't behoove them to trade pre-draft. So that's when I'm like, look, you're a team like Chicago. You need an edge rusher, and you don't get your guy in this draft because maybe just for whatever reason, right? And you're the Bears sitting there. What do you address all your needs, and you're feeling really comfortable. You've already brought in 2 offensive linemen. Maybe you sign your center. Maybe you get another. Maybe your draft is chock full of offensive linemen, and you're still going, well, we haven't really adequately answered the edge issue. Okay, so maybe you trade next year's number 1 for Myles Garrett or Trey Hendrickson. I'll look at his contract in a minute. Thank you, Woody. We know you love your team.
There you go, Woody.
But I mean, well, let me look at him real quick. But I mean, he's looking like he's going to be a post-draft trade money-wise. Now, if I look at Trey Hendrickson, he's different. If they trade him before the draft, or I'm going to not cut, I'm going to trade. If they trade him before the draft, they take $2.6 million in dead, and they pick up $16 million. If it's post the draft, the number stays exactly the same. So for Cincy, you can see Trey Hendrickson move a lot faster than Garrett, because Garrett, and look at Woody. See? But you're giving up a draft. You're probably looking at giving up draft capital for this draft. Whereas I think for Garrett, because of the finances, if it's as plain and simple as over the cap makes it look like, if that's in fact the case, then you'd be stupid if you're Cleveland to trade him for draft capital this year, because you're going to lose $16 million on your cap this year, which would put you back into the negative. But if you wait till after the draft, now you're back in the positive on cap, and you're picking up capital for next year already.
Here's one thing that I would think about for Cleveland is I would trade down for next year's draft capital. In the draft, I would trade that number 2 and try to pick up as many of a team's future firsts as I could, and then also trade Garrett after the June 1st deadline, right? So now it's like you're going into next draft, you got possibly 3 or 4 first round picks. You can do a lot with that.
And that's a better quarterback draft too.
And it's a better quarterback draft. And you have the added effect of you just traded Garrett, you're rolling Deshaun Watson out there, so you're probably not going to be very good this year. So you're probably going to be picking high next year too.
And when I go to next year right now,
it sucks for the fans because you're going to be looking at a 4-win season if you're lucky, right? But
I was going to say Cleveland fans are used to that by now.
Well, look, as Cleveland sits right now for the cap next year, with 30 folks signed in the roster for 2026, they have $875,000 in cap. As they sit right now, 2026, looking ahead of you. Deshaun Watson's cap number next year, oh my God. Deshaun Watson's cap number in 26, you want to know how stupid it is? $81 million.
That's got to be before his restructure, because the restructure made it to where they can move on from him in 2026.
So we'll have to see. We'll have to see on Monday. Remind me Monday. We'll look Monday again. Over the cap usually updates pretty darn quick with big moves like that. But dude, that'd be a stupid number. If they can move on from him in 2026, though, I agree with Joe. It's like, dude, trade Garrett after the draft, get some team's first rounder next year, and start maybe trade down this year and pick up a number. Like someone wants to jump to 2, great. Give me your number 1 next year. We'll swap this year, your 1 next year. They could end up with 3 or 4 number 1 picks next year.
Also, Denzel Ward had already come out and said that if they trade Garrett, that he wants to be traded too. Ward has a history of concussions. You're paying him big money, and he's a good corner, but when he's healthy, but like I would trade Ward too. Like I would just go ahead and rebuild your defense with all these first round picks that you're going to pick up.
He's harder to trade. Denzel Ward, if he's traded before the draft, you're taking $30 mil of dead cap, and you're losing $5.8 mil on the cap. If he's post June 1st, however, Once again, post June 1st, big difference. Now you're talking 10 mil in dead cap, and you pick up 14 mil. So if you trade Denzel Ward and Myles Garrett after the draft, you're going to save almost you're going to save $19 million in cap this year, which now gives you, if they don't sign anyone else, well, it gives them 19 mil because the 12 mil they've got right now is going to pick up, whoever they get in the draft. Really think about it. So
And that's what I'm saying is like it's not really about it's not really about what you're going to get for Denzel Ward. It's about getting his contract off your books and replacing him with a new, a young corner on a rookie contract.
28. He's 28, so he's not. You could make. I don't know if you're gonna get a first rounder for him, but
No.
I don't know. You might. Maybe you probably get a second rounder or a third rounder for him. But once again, draft capital for next year. And if you really want to be aggressive for next year for Cleveland, you trade out of 2 this year. In fact, you just trade out the first round altogether this year. Do multiple trades. Try to trade out the first altogether and stock it for next year. You have like 4. If you can trade back and pick up a first rounder and then trade out of the first round, pick up another first rounder for next year, right? If you fork a deal like that, you could walk in and then you trade both those guys. You could walk into a deal where they got 4 first round picks and 2 or 3 second round picks next year. I mean, the first 70 picks of the draft, they could have like 7 or 8 picks. I mean, dude, you could rebuild an entire defense with that, or an entire offense with that.
Yeah, I mean, Cleveland's game plans should be pretty simple: shed contracts, acquire draft capital, and go from there.
So, where does Trey Hendrickson, where did Myles Garrett go? Woody's like sign, trade for trade now. I don't know about that, but I think if I'd say what Philly's going to be looking, Washington's going to be looking, Baltimore's going to be looking, Buffalo's going to be looking.
I'm not ruling out the Chargers looking because they just lost both of their edge rushers and they made the playoffs last year.
That's a lot of money they just saved between not re-signing Mack and cutting both.
Yep.
They're going to be looking. I think the Bears would be looking only if it's like I don't think it's a priority for them. I think with Myles Garrett, depends on how the free agency and the draft goes and what the asking price is for next year. Look, if the Bears think, well, look, we did really good with the offensive line, and we think we're definitely going to be a playoff team that can make a deep run. Because I mean, if you think you're a playoff team, then you're a Super Bowl team, right? In your mind, you have to be. Otherwise, why even go to the playoffs? So if they think, look, this is a team that's going to make the playoff, maybe they pull the trigger post draft and give up next year's first rounder for Myles Garrett and spend the money. But so there are quite a few teams out there who make a move for him post draft. Cleveland could definitely shed a lot of contracts and see some guys on the move after the draft, which we haven't seen in a couple of years. With Trey, his market I think is a lot more wide open because they can trade him before the draft. So if you're Philly, you're like, I'll give you my first rounder this year for him. Last pick of the first round, might as well be a second rounder. Cool. And you're expecting to win the Super Bowl again this year. You're like, you know what? I'll even give you next year's first rounder. I don't care.
I want the Raiders to make an offer post June 1st. I just want to see Max Crosby and Myles Garrett play together.
That would be
nobody would ever be able to pass the ball on us again, dude.
Yeah, Joe, but like you tell me with Max Crosby, that ain't gonna happen.
Well, they're completely different circumstances. Myles Garrett is going to be available on the market, and there's no reason that the Raiders can't come in and make an offer.
I highly doubt they're going to trade him.
Whereas Crosby was under contract, and people were like swearing up and down that he was going to be traded. Like, there's a difference. Like,
so, Ken, I mean, look at if Joe's not off point here because look at we all thought the Raiders had a pretty good team. Their failing was the quarterback position. If they feel like via free agency in the draft that they've addressed the issues that they had from last year, knowing that a lot of guys are coming back off injury, they may take the swing because they're looking at Kansas City that is probably looking like they might be on the decline. Now, I use air quotes for that because it's, but still, and they're looking how Denver surged last year when everyone thought they'd be the worst team in the division. So So for the Raiders, if their draft and free agency goes right, Myles Garrett's going to be a guy for a lot of teams that you might not consider pre-draft, but post-draft, if their draft and their free agency goes right, they may say, you know what? I don't mind giving up a late first rounder next year because I'm going to be in the playoffs, and I'll give up number 20 to 32, somewhere in there.
Yeah, but I highly doubt they're going to want to trade him in conference. If they do, I think the Raiders would have to overpay to get that done.
Yeah, and Woody, there's that for the Bears, Chase Young, and someone verified, not that I don't trust John, but the Commanders he's saying just released defensive tackle Jonathan Allen.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've been hearing a little rumblings that they might do that.
But just for a second, Ken, just think about if the Raiders actually did make that move. Like Ken says, if they address, I know they're going to take a running back in the draft. They're going to try to get that going, right? They're going to hopefully re-sign their defensive guys, their free agents. Like, we're going to have a full, slew of draft picks, plus whatever free agency happens. We'll see. Like, I expect them to address the quarterback position. I think they probably are going to try to go after Jackson Dart. And then they may end up signing a vet. Like, maybe they'll go for Justin Fields because he's cheap for a year until they can get Dart ready, But imagine that defensive line if it had Max Crosby, Christian Wilkins, Myles Garrett, and Tyree Wilson, dude. Like, you're talking about one of the nastiest defensive lines in NFL history, dude.
Fields most likely is going to end up. It looks like Fields is going to end up staying in Pittsburgh. They're leaning towards Fields.
Yeah. Well, then if we end up with Russ, okay, yeah. I don't care. Like, because Russ has only got to put up 10 points a game with our pass rush, dude. Like,
even then, that's
or Rodgers, exactly. Give me Rodgers.
That if I was a Raiders fan, I'd feel more comfortable with.
That's fine. Give me Rodgers, and then let me go get Myles Garrett, and then Rodgers can teach Jackson Dart, and we're gonna have 150 sacks this season, and you know what I mean.
So when Rodgers comes in and he demands that Adams comes with him, you're okay for Adams to come back?
I don't think they would do that. I think if Adams didn't go out the way he did, if he had went out in a conciliatory manner, then I don't think we'd have any problem bringing him back. But the way he did it, all of Raider Nation is like, fuck Devontae, dude. Like,
Devontae in Vegas is funny.
He's basically Antonio Brown at this point. Like,
Devontae still makes his home in Vegas. He loves living in Vegas. He's got a beautiful house in Vegas. He loves his neighbors, his kids' schools. I mean, it's funny because he's Antonio Brown to the Raiders. I mean, that's not a bad way of looking at it, Joe. But yet,
yeah, and you know why I'm saying that, right? Because remember when Antonio Brown signed with the Raiders, all the shit he pulled? Like, that's what I mean. I don't mean like Devontae is the same kind of person that Antonio Brown is. I'm saying the Raider fans look at him the same way they look at Antonio Brown at this point.
And Nick, with that line of thinking, I want to hereby thank the New York Giants and the New York Jets, especially the Jets, for perennially sucking to make weed legal in New York.
Hey, Doran, I'll take Gino too. Like, I'll take Gino. Gino's serviceable until we get our guy ready to go. And like I said, they're only going to have to put up 10 to 14 points a game because who's throwing the ball on us, dude? If we got Myles Garrett and Max Crosby and Christian Wilkins on that defensive line, who's throwing the ball on us? Nobody. Hey. I don't care if you're Patrick Mahomes. Kermit's going to be running for his life, dude.
All right. Before you break out the new underwear, let's wait for this to happen.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
I
know.
Somebody get John Spytek on the phone.
Joe fired up this morning. Let me see if I can douse this a little bit here. Let me see what the Raiders have to cap. $80 million. Never mind. $80 million.
And a slew of draft picks. Let's not forget that.
But we got to remember one major part of this is that Myles Garrett said that he wants to go to a Super Bowl contender.
But what if Myles Garrett getting added to the team along with the other pieces makes them, what if he believes like, hey, I like what they did in the draft and free agency, and if I was to go there and play with Max, all of a sudden maybe we are a Super Bowl contender?
Well, then if I was you, I would completely skip Spytek out of this, and I'd be having Brady go over to Myles Garrett's house and be having coffee with him every freaking morning.
No, but I mean, so look, I'll just ask the panel. Does anybody on the panel honestly believe if they go, let's say they get Rodgers, right? If they go get Rodgers, they get a running back in the draft, they take care, they re-sign their defensive free agents, and now they go sign Myles Garrett. They go trade for Myles Garrett. Does anybody not see the Raiders being a playoff team?
Well, that's the thing, though.
Absolutely.
This is the thing I love about the argument. Well, they said they wanted to go to a contending team. Dude, some of these teams that you don't consider contending teams all of a sudden become contending teams once they get that player. And I think that if Garrett were to go to Vegas, Vegas is now a contending team. Any team that Garrett goes to that got some other good pieces, like, for instance, you can't go to a team that has nothing on defense. And all of a sudden,
I was hoping you were going to walk me into saying, all right, book it. We got Garrett going to the Saints, and they're winning the Super Bowl.
No, I mean, that's why I said, like, if you're any of the NFC North teams, if you're, if you're Cincinnati, if you're, any of those kinds of teams where like you've got a lot of other good pieces on your roster, and maybe you missed the playoffs last year, but you had 5 to 9 wins, and but you have some good pieces and draft capital coming into this year. You see a guy like Myles Garrett, all of a sudden they're a contending team. Now, if you go to a team like
Carolina,
maybe, but yeah, Carolina might be a good example, even though they're coming up a little. They're going the right way. But like Jacksonville, no, Jacksonville's not going to be a contending team because you got Myles Garrett.
The Saints.
They have so many issues, right? But yeah, dude. So like, if Myles Garrett went to the Raiders, they're now a contending team. If you went to the Bears or anyone in the NFC North, all contending teams. You go almost anywhere in the AFC North, now they're a contending team.
I would say that, and this is a bit of a little friendly jab to Nick, is that, Myles Garrett wants to go to a contending team, so he's not going to go to Detroit, since everybody knows they're the same old Lions.
Full gold Lions.
If the Lions did something that would be still very out of context for them and made that kind of move, though, that may put them over the top defensively.
Yeah, but the curse is still going to happen for them. Peyton Manning might have done all that voodoo over there trying to cure it, but all it did was move the curse from the regular season to the playoffs.
Well, we already know about Peyton.
Packers suck.
Yeah. So that's why Peyton had such a fall off. His mental acuity's going.
So I agree with Joe, though. Like, dude, that would be a scary pass rush in the AFC West. I mean, and they have the capital to do it. I mean, if they really, really wanted to get stupid, they could trade. They probably couldn't trade for Trey and Miles, but they have the money to. They just have the draft capital.
I was thinking more along the lines of if they were to call up the Packers and say, hey, we'll give you a 3rd or a 4th right now for Jair, and then go get Myles Garrett. Because they have the money to do it. They have the draft capital to do it. And the Raiders need a corner because Jacorian Bennett has come a long way since he was drafted. Like he's going to be one of our starting corners. If they could add the experience that Alexander has, and he could be a captain on that defense.
And don't forget, Rodgers likes Alexander. So if they do sign Rodgers, he's going to be singing his praises.
I mean, so it's funny because, like, we all get hung up on last season. I get it. Those were the last games we saw. These teams are already radically different than what we saw their final games of the year in a lot of cases. The Bears are already a totally different club. The Raiders are a totally different club. Some of these teams have already made, Detroit, a totally different football team now. They're going to have 2 new coordinators. Totally different club. There's probably a good dozen teams right now that are completely different than they were just 2 months ago. So
The Redskins and the Chargers to that list as well.
yeah. So there are places that you go where people are like, oh, they're not contenders. Some made the playoffs when one went deep. But there are guys who, oh, well, he says he wants to go to a contending team. Dude, he makes them a contender the second he shows up in the door. It's like, well, Michael Jordan only wanted to play for a contending team. He played for the Wizards, and they also were contenders for a little bit. A player can make a team that was perceived as a non-contender a contender. The right player at the right place at the right time. So I could see. So go back to the original question, Ken and Joe. Yeah, I could see the Raiders doing it, and the Raiders would definitely be a contender.
Mhm.
There are very few teams. I think that Myles Garrett was like, no. It might be like 5 or 6. He's like, you have a,
Yeah, like if it was the New York Giants, for example, he's like, nah, I'll pass. Or the Jets.
Jets, the Jaguars.
Oh, don't forget the Giants are also in that Rodgers hunt too, and they already have a pretty damn good defense, and they have Malik Neighbors. They are almost the Vegas Raiders of the NFC, to where you get a few of the right pieces, they could be a contender too. But it's I think a couple more pieces than the Raiders would need, because I think the Raiders' offensive line's a little better.
And when you talk about trading, you talk about Garrett, we know there are a couple teams that are out, right? For sure, out. They don't have the money or the cap. So you can forget about Kansas City. You can forget about Dallas. You can probably forget about San Francisco. Those teams are out. It's ironic is the Super Bowl winning Eagles are in the mix because they've got money and draft capital. It's like, really? I mean, they can get even richer. But there are.
Did you really have to mention that, Ken? Because now that you mentioned it, it almost seems like a foregone conclusion that Myles
If
Garrett.
the Eagles got Myles Garrett, they would be a freaking dynasty, dude.
Yeah. And
I can pretty much see them winning like the next 4 Super Bowls in a row, dude.
I mean, it depends. Well, they've got 21 million cap. They don't have a ton of cap, but they got enough to make that happen. That's without their draft pick. They've got some big contracts right now. Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Lane Johnson. Darius Slay is still showing up, but they haven't released him yet. He's going to probably be. Oh, let me see what his post-June. He's going to be a post-June first designee. Yeah, because they free up $4 million when they get rid of him. They're going to extend Saquon, which isn't going to affect their cap next year, but they've got roughly 25. If they cut Slay, if the reports are true and Slay is going to be a designee, but they think that might have already happened over the cap, maybe flipping here. They've got roughly 25 mil. So they barely have the money, but they got the money. If I look out for what they've got already on the book, of course, it's probably going to include Darius Slay, unfortunately. But if I look out to 26, they've got 46 mil, and that's with Darius Slay still on the book. If he's off the book, that's another 24 mil, or another 11 mil. So they'll have $57 million next year, and 40 players already under contract. So, yeah, they could be a player. But I think that we're going to see Trey get traded before the draft, and Myles will go after. I mean, unless there's some weird proclivity or some weird thing where Cleveland doesn't go negative cap for trading them before the draft. I mean, if you look at over the cap, if that's the actual the way it is, then they'll lose $12 million in cap space if they trade them before the draft. They almost have no choice but to do it after the draft for both their picks that we were talking about trading. So there could be good movement post-trade or post-draft.
And on that absolutely terrible take from Ken, we want to thank everybody for watching, especially thank y'all for commenting, and thank Ken for giving us the crappy take.
Doing my best to make football great again. What can I tell you? Hey, thanks everyone like Nicholas and the creative crew and Sarah and everyone else from John, Dorn, love you, brother. and Woody and everyone else for comments this morning, keeping us going, keep the conversation going. Hey, enjoy your weekend. Don't forget the Packers, those weird guys that like that cheesehead team. They have their show tonight, the Packer Backer Boys. They have their show tonight. Tomorrow we've got open mic. Sunday we have Red Zone Rant and Palace Hall Report. So yeah, and hey Nick, do you have a space going on today? I'll give you a shout if you got a space. We had a space yesterday. It was a lot of fun. So if you're on X, check out Nick over there. Always having fun on the spaces. But you guys have a great weekend. Enjoy yourself. Hopefully some great weather. Spring is coming. And keep watching the waiver wires because stuff is starting to move. Have a great weekend, everyone.
This is a Huddle Sports Network broadcast. You can find us on Roku TV, Amazon Fire Stick TV, Facebook, and YouTube. Get all your sports news here first. The daily podcasts are Ken and Ken in the Morning, Lions Talk with Smoking Jeremy B.